yes, the elections are over, except those who have gone to different courts in different parts of the country. But how do we improve on the process? What transpired? I mean, those who say you need to know where you're coming from, so that you know what kind of steps you need to take to move forward. Or put differently, you need to know where the race started between you, so you know how you all proceed. Well, to take us through some of that, we've got Ayodele Amin, who is the Executive Director, Human Rights Advancement, Development and Advocacy Center, HURIDAC. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chaplain.
Now, you need to give us this background. Your group, you did some research concerning the human rights components of the just concluded elections, which, even though you said you did that as well for 2015.
Yeah.
But let's, first of all, for this, how many of your men or members were deployed to the elections, and where was it before? Were they all over the place for the presidential and governorship elections? Okay,
now, we have been doing this since 2015, and we did it for Gambia for 2016, we did it for Sierra Leone in 2018, I was in Sierra Leone for the entire election, and we did it in 2019 as well. Now, the way we work is that we work with other situation rooms, because what we do is to mine data. Okay, we do desktop research, we mine data, we follow up with observers. Like in Sierra Leone, we train observers to include human rights component as part of the indicators and part of the information they'll be gathering. So we work with the Women's Situation Room in Sierra Leone to be able to gather data from the observer in the field. And in 2019, we work with the Clean Foundation, we work with the Civil Society Situation Rooms, and we also assess data from SBM as well as Partner for West Africa. So
what's SBM?
Well, it is a kind of an entity as part of Women's Situation Room who monitors violence over the years. Their data is more scary, almost about 500 and something dead throughout the electoral process.
Okay, so for the 2019 elections, you latched on to, you leveraged on all these other groups who had monitors and members in different parts of the country to report?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so going through the data that you have, let's start off with your findings about the data. Because first and foremost, having given us this particular data, when was this one published?
Well, we launched this report a few days ago in Abuja on the 25th.
That was after the supplementary elections?
Yes.
Did you
but this data, because we just say that we are going to revise this because we didn't factor in the supplementary election. Okay. Because we use a project management methodology. So we have everything planned from the beginning. So we didn't factor that. And also when we look at the states that we haven't supplemented, they are kind of pretty peaceful in the other two elections. So we aren't expecting this shock. So we are going to revise our data based on the information from the supplementary election as well.
One of the things that you said in the prologue to your report is that you said that you didn't have access to large data.
Yes,
what does that mean?
We have a formula that we call n plus x equals to nt. N is what we know now that we have documented. Some of these cases still need to be followed up, okay? Then you have x is what we are about to know, what we are yet to discover. And that should give us nt, which is the national trend. So the database we have is an indicative database, which is a minimalist approach. So when we say the number of deaths is 174, then it can still go up when you go ahead and follow up on some of those cases. For example, in 2015, what we recorded around the election for Rivers, for example, is less than what we discovered when you have this commission of inquiry that went into Rivers to actually look at it.
Let's go through some of this. There's this first of all, this is the human rights component of the 2019, just concluded 2019 general elections.
If you want to shed light on what the human rights component is, that'd be very peaceful. Yeah. So we look at 3 aspects of human rights. We didn't look at all aspects of human rights. We just focus on 3. One, we are looking at unlawful killings. And under unlawful killing, we have 3 components. We are looking at extrajudicial executions, which is death by security forces or anyone with the authority of government. Then we are looking at political motivated killings. This is killing by non-state actors, by people who don't work for government, either politicians, political thugs, or no hoodlums. Then we also have politically related death. This is the first time we are having that, because you have some deaths that happen due to political activities. There is no motive to kill. For example, people have accidents on the way to campaign. People were suffocated in a campaign rally. So we take all this into consideration, and we tag them as politically related death. Then we now go to the second component, which is the injuries, from a kind of a little scrap to stabbing or to level of misdeath. So we try to document that, and destruction of property is the last one.
Okay.
So that's the component we looked at.
All right, let's throw in these slides that you've got now. Yeah. What is HRV versus HRA?
Thank you. HRV is human rights violations, which is violence committed by government or security forces. Okay? Then human rights abuse are
go ahead.
Human rights abuse are
That's
committed.
what you see now, right?
Yeah, are committed by non-state actors. And what this is telling us, which is very useful for us to look at this, is that just about 16%.
That's a human rights violation.
Violations.
16%.
Which means that the government or the security forces committed that, allegedly. But most of the violence are committed by non-state actors. Now, let's compare that with
most of the 16% or the 84%?
84%, non-state actors,
That's
which politicians, abuses. Politicians support their supporters on loan hoodlums. Now, what is the level of our investment on this? We have invested heavily in the security forces by giving them a lot of training, human rights trainings, human rights manuals, but we are not actually engaging with the political parties. So is the politicians allegedly killing each other and killing voters?
So, and there is no way.
And we have not actually engaged with them in terms of looking at the consequences of this action. How do we prevent it? And this is what we are now telling people to say, we need to now refocus attention on the political parties.
So there is no way security operatives could have stemmed that or foreseen it? Is that what you're saying?
Stem what?
Stemmed this 84% human rights abuses.
So 84, this in our database, when we say security forces, they are kind of name group. For example, soldiers killed somebody in River State. Police shot somebody dead. Police stray bullet killed somebody. Okay? So those form human rights violations.
Okay.
So human rights abuse is anything outside that.
Okay.
Okay? Anything outside that government officials or security forces are not involved.
And then when you speak about the type of violence,
yeah.
So now, which you say you had extrajudicial execution,
yeah.
Politically motivated killing, politically related death. So now, the one that's got the largest chunk here, destruction of properties,
yeah.
37%.
Yes.
And so this had got to do with either, how did you arrive at it? Talk us through that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, what we did is that in our database, in our data lab, we didn't use weighted aggregate. So we take each indicators on the face of it. So if you have 55 cars destroyed in Kwara State, that goes in as 55. So it's not going to be 50. You won't compare that to about 7 deaths in Rivers. So you can see that, because most people will say, oh, the state with the highest level of violence is Rivers State. But our data didn't say that, because when we aggregate everything together, for example, if we look at destruction of properties, we are talking about destruction of INEC offices, we are looking at burning of houses, burning of card readers, we are looking at burning of cars. All those put together constitute the highest level of violence, then followed by injuries. I hope you are aware of the 44 police officers that were injured in an accident. That's was 44. So we didn't use the weighted aggregate to say, okay, if somebody is killed, it's 10. And if somebody is injured, it's 5. No, we didn't use that. So that's why you have this kind of configuration.
Okay. Then I also see what you spoke about, the extrajudicial execution.
Yes.
And then, but concerning this politically motivated killing.
When you say execution,
yeah,
that's a strong word.
Yeah, it's a strong word. So when we say extrajudicial execution, they are kind of killings that were not authorized by the court.
Yeah, that's why I was going to this
Yeah.
politically motivated killing where you say 13%. Now, is this certified by the police authorities? If you say politically motivated killings, because you're coming to a conclusion here.
Now, in our database, what we have, in some of the cases, you have a police commissioner coming out to say, I'm confirming the death of a House of Representative member in your state. Okay? You have a situation whereby security orderlies of a governor of a state was involved in killing of 2 people. So our data goes through various levels of verification. Okay? But we wrote to the police, we wrote to the political parties, we wrote to INEC for them to furnish us the information of violation and abuses against their members. But they didn't respond to that. But we are following this up with them.
Okay. And so these are the numbers.
These are the numbers beyond the percentages.
Okay, so that's why when you say the politically motivated killings, 60 of them.
Yeah.
So 60 of this is what formed the 19%.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So which means these 60 people were killed not by the police, not by the soldiers. But if you look at all that, you will also see a data which shows that when we try to look at, because some of them you have named groups. Some of them you have named individuals, not so many, but you have named groups like APC thugs, PCP thugs, but you have a lot of unknown hoodlums, unnamed thugs, unnamed youth. And we strongly believe that we are handing over this report to the police because all these cases are location. They are pulling units, pulling numbers, and the police and the Human Rights Commission are going to follow up.
Is that reflected here?
Yes.
The named ones, there's several groups that are named.
Yes, there's another database that shows that.
Okay, we'll come to that. But the next one here has got to do with the total death in Nigeria in 2019 versus that of 2015, and then Sierra Leone 2018. Wait a minute. Why
are we doing this comparison?
Yes. Sierra Leone, how much is its population? 7.8 million or thereabout?
Okay, Chaplain, this is actually what at times make us to be very, very concerned. Are we saying that we need to kill more because we have more people?
No, we're asking for what was the reason why.
Yes, because what we have done, we did this work in 2015. We have a database for it. We did the work in 2018 election in Sierra Leone. We have a database for it, and we did this one. So we put all these 3 databases together, and we just look at death. Now in Sierra Leone, only 6 people died in the entire election. So if you want to go through your analysis,
when you say only, you want one person died.
No, I know. The reason why I'm saying that is because you just said that there are not so many. 6 out of 8 million.
The basis for comparison.
Now, the basis for comparison for us is clear that we need to know that even in our neighbors, okay, they are not losing so many people to election. We have not even compared this with Senegal, where nobody died. Or Gambia in 2016, whereby only 1 person died pre-election.
The point that I think you're trying to make with this human rights angle of the report and on the general elections is that there shouldn't be any form of human rights violations.
There shouldn't be human rights violation. There should be human rights. Look, elections.
Have you been able to track the reasons for this? You know.
Yeah, you see, for us, one of the beauty of using a human rights framework, because you talk to some people who are monitoring election, they say we don't do human rights. Okay? But when you use a human rights framework, nobody can accuse you of biases because you are measuring against known standards, known international treaties that the government have ratified.
All right, we'll still need to move a little further because we still have some ground to cover. I'm just, okay, fine. We've seen this comparison that you have. So it's huge here. The total death in Nigeria's election for 2019 is higher than that of 2015. So we had 59% in 2019 as against 39% in 2015. Now, wait a minute. This, from what you say, did not factor in the supplementary elections.
No. By the time we had the supplementary, it's going to...
The figures will change.
Definitely, we are negatively improving.
Could it be because the numbers for the of people who were involved, in the previous election, the number of people who are involved in this election is a lot more than the people who were involved in the previous election.
Well, we don't actually interrogate that. What we are interrogating is the occurrence, the evidence that we have. And we are saying this is supposed to be going down or doesn't need to exist at all. Because elections are not war. We as observers, we have not been trained to be a war correspondent. So we shouldn't be going into an election. Well, the implication is severe because one, we need good people, professionals to go into politics. How are you going to politics if you are told that you may die from that process? By joining political parties, it's not the same like joining the army, where you have to wait your right to life.
Okay,
so we are actually disenfranchising a lot of people who could serve us in future because the political atmosphere is littered with blood.
So the figure for this 59% is actually 176.
Yeah.
That's why it's higher than 2015, which is 114.
Yeah.
And that's quite a lot.
A lot.
But then this is one that raises some concern as well. If you look at the security forces as perpetrators and victims.
Yeah.
Because, yes, they're there to protect lives and property. Yeah. But the figure we see here, security forces as perpetrators, 28. And then security forces as victims, 3.
Yeah. On our database, we are looking at cases where security forces have been named, either as victims or as perpetrator. You remember the case in Castina where a policeman and a civil defense officer lost their life. That from part of the 3. You remember the case in Rivers where a soldier was killed. But the cases whereby they were involved allegedly in killing is 28. And this is just looking at the total data.
But for this 28, and you also, is this part of what was confirmed by security agencies as well, or where they were named to have been the perpetrators as well?
No, this is where they are named on our database. Like I said, I use the word allegedly for now. Okay. Because we are going to follow up each of these cases.
Okay, so this should be security forces as alleged perpetrators.
Yes.
But security forces as actually victims. That's confirmed.
That is confirmed victims, yes.
But for this, perpetrators is alleged perpetrators.
Yeah. But even as security forces as victims in this report, is there any way that the report captured or can help the security operatives themselves to be protected? Because they shouldn't also be victims. Of
course. This is also part of the discussion we want to have with the police. When we share our database for the work we did in Sierra Leone with the police, they actually invited us to come and help them, mine their database, because it shows them the reason why they need to plan ahead, because they can now see where those violence may be coming from for future elections.
Okay. Then, as a number of victims of political parties, now, this is...
Yeah, that's a controversial one.
The PDP had 49%. The APC has 51%.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Tell us about this.
Now, if you ask anybody, the notion, the rumors out there is that PDP are more violent than APC. But our database doesn't say that. So in terms of victims...
Well, it probably depends on who you are asking.
No, I'm just saying, but this is in the situation, this is what people are saying, But in terms of looking at the database and crunching the figures, and we discovered that in cases where APC were named as victims, it's higher than where PDP are named as victims. But when you now go to the perpetrators, don't forget that these perpetrators also include inter-party violence, like the one in Ijanike, whereby APC and APC.
Okay, that's how you arrive at this?
Yeah, at this. So it's not just, there are cases whereby PDP and APC clashes, but where they were named in any of the cases, APC were named allegedly as more perpetrators than PDP. PDP 9%.
Now, look at the, excuse me, these alleged perpetrators, where you say APC has got 21%, PDP 9%, then others 54%.
Yeah.
So does this speak to the earlier one, where you spoke about that percentage between political parties, or explain this?
Yeah, this is total alleged perpetration, putting everything together. Now, if you look at the 54%...
Is this about the
total violence, including...
not number of victims of political parties now?
No.
This is the total
violence that happened. And including all those extrajudicial killings, political motivated killings, injuries, destruction of properties, those who are named are perpetrators. Those who are unnamed are called others, okay, which is like 54%.
Guys, you're too fast, man. Come on, let's get back to
Let's go back. Yeah. And
Okay,
these are cases whereby you heard unknown thugs, unnamed hoodlums, and that is what you have. But where you have named one,
that's the 54. Okay,
that
the
is
named one.
named one in all the cases on our database. APC we are named in 21% of the cases, and PDP we are named in 9%. And it is interesting to note that two other political parties.
I'm seeing APM here.
APM we are named in Ogun State, and you have
2%.
AA in River State. You even have NURTW.
AA in River State.
Yeah, you even have NURTW that beat up an INEC officials.
I also saw in this list that you have here, you
Police
named
solidar-
Boko Haram
Yes.
as alleged perpetrators of electoral violence.
Yes, because when
That's
you look-
1%.
Yes, and that is the case of the governor that was attacked on his way. Those are politically related deaths.
Oh, okay.
We even have Kajuru there.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
about this one. Okay, this has. All
The
right,
presidential election.
this is for the
before
presidential election.
The
Gentlemen,
eve of the presidential election.
but before you get to this, okay, this is still pre-presidential, but we've skipped the total incident of violence by states. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
you can
fine.
go back. Yeah.
Yeah, but talk us through this particular one. The total death by states.
Yeah.
This is the pre-presidential.
Yeah.
How come Ekiti State here has got 37%?
Exactly. You remember the case of a trailer carrying rice
Yeah.
that actually killed about 20 people
Okay.
in Iworoko in Ekiti State. Okay? And we have to put that into context. And if you look at pre-presidential election in terms of total incident,
But this is in the states now.
yeah, by state, aggregated by state, total incident,
Kwara's
destruction
got
of property,
33%.
everybody would think that, oh, that should be Rivers. But it's Kwara. Because there's a single case in Kwara whereby 55 vehicles were burned down. We don't have 55 deaths in Rivers State. But you will see where Rivers is really relevant when you look at the election day.
Okay.
Election
So-
day violence itself.
This is pre-presidential election
Pre-presidential
incident by
election,
states.
yes.
Kwara, Kaduna stand out here, but
Yeah.
the presidential election day incident,
Yeah.
that's the next one here,
Yeah.
which is where you talk about River State has got 50%.
Exactly. Just on the presidential, the Rivers State account for 50% of the total violence.
Okay.
Just for the presidential day election.
River State had 50%.
Of the
And-
total violence in the whole country.
Wow, this is huge.
Well, Rivers State has been like that. I was part of the technical team that looked into the electoral violence in 2015, the Chidi Kano Technical Commission of Inquiry. And we discovered that almost 97 deaths in that election. That was 2015. And even I've been in meetings whereby INEC are very concerned that going back to Rivers 10 times is always the same outcome. And that is why if you look at the report, we did a background exploration of our elections. You know, Chamberlain, we have infused violence into our elections since 1922. We all know First Republic, we held up the West here, and we need to it has to stop. We need to divorce ourselves from the past.
Yeah.
And start
But then you also do have this total death election day presidential.
yeah.
And it's instructive that on this day, on this list, River State, okay, well, River State is there.
First is there.
And they are 20%.
Yeah.
As the same as Ebonyi.
Yeah.
Same as Zamfara.
Yeah.
Same as Bayelsa.
Yeah. Don't forget that when we look at the total violence, we are not just looking at death. We are looking at injuries. We are looking at destruction of property. So when you look at this, we are just looking at death alone in all these states. In all these states.
Then Oyo and Kogi have 10% each.
Yeah.
And
But then
governorship election day, it's,
Yeah.
a few more states are added to the list.
Yes, because deaths occur in those states, you know. But I think this actually needs to rejiggle our consciousness to say, is this the path we want to continue to follow? You know, there is a need for us to sanitize our electoral process. We cannot continue to, we all talk about militarization of elections, that we don't want our election to be militarized. The law is very clear about this. But at the end of the day, you look at it, it's not actually the military or the police that are committing most of this violence.
It's these others.
It's the politicians and their supporters and their sympathizers allegedly committing this.
So what do we then need to do? What would you recommend?
Well, we are looking at a couple of recommendations after this. You know, this is a report that we did in partnership with the National Human Rights Commission. And we have sat down yesterday to look at this. And we are looking at various options. One is a top-bottom approach, whereby we need to start serious punitive measures on the politicians. Because it's also not true that the police don't follow up on these cases. Some of these cases happen in states. And the Attorney General of the state might enter non-knowledge that we are not interested in, you know. So what will the police do? So we need to see whether we need to take accountability out of the states, out of the country. Maybe we should approach the International Criminal Court, or we should approach, because we cannot continue to do this. But we also want to adopt the bottom-up approach, which is trying to provide education for the youth group of these political parties, because they need to know the implication. I said something very clearly, just one point, that if in 2015 we have prosecuted, investigated, prosecuted, and jailed 2,000 alleged perpetrators, then that is 2,000 less thugs, less people that will be active in 2019. And if we send another 2,000, so we are kind of improving.
Recruit more.
Yeah.
But
we are
Ayodele Amin is Executive Director, Huey Doctor at Human Rights Advancement, Development and Advocacy Center. We appreciate your coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain.